long ago, and it happened far away. The moral of the story has been lost until today. Although we shouldn't let the past complicate the now, we wrap a stack of artifacts that help us show us how. Whatnot hopes and soggy dreams become who I am today. I'm feeling more alive in more important ways. Lost all ability to think for myself. I put it on the table, then you help yourself. Oh, wow, oh, wow. This place stinks of corruption. Shots fired confirm my assumption. Everyone is evil in their own special way. This advice I'm giving you today.
Morning, everybody. Good to be with you today. A couple quick announcements before we dive back into Iliad. The assignment from tyranny to democracy, I have pushed that due date all the way to Monday, November 29th, not because you need that much time, but because I want any homework time you have set aside for my class this week to give you the opportunity to prepare for next week's test. A reminder, the study guide for the test can be found on the materials page of Schoology in the Quarter 2, Week 5 folder. If you've had my classes before, you know my study guides will be of great help to you in preparing for the test. The test will look very familiar to you if you have worked through the study guide. So the Trojans are there, fixin' to knock down the wall, fixin' to burn down the Achaeans' ships. It all looks hopeless for our Achaean invaders, and Ajax picks up a giant rock and he hurls it at Hector, and it hits Hector in the chest. And down Hector goes, and Hector lays dying. Whatever will possibly happen next, let's find out. Open up your Iliads to book 15.
Ajax should have gone for the head.
Should have gone for the head.
Wait, so
I
you're
get that.
saying big
Just
Ajax,
like
small
this.
Ajax?
Yeah, it was great big Ajax through there. It'd be kind of funny if it's little bitty Ajax through the big rock, but no, it's great big giant Ajax.
It reminded me about that Toy Story 2, where there's like a McDonald's little Buzz Lightyear, and then there's a regular big
I should get a screenshot of that for next year when I teach this and use that for big Ajax and little Ajax. Or even later this year while I'm still teaching it. Okay, we want to turn to line 259. That's going to be the start of the last section on page 394. Cynthia, do you need water? Okay, after my Zeus line, I'll be pretty much too. Yeah, it'll be pretty much too bad. Okay, yeah, we'll make it work. We'll make it work.
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
A sharp tremor and a massive flood of earthquakes left the chaos lines. Into the surfy dome, heroes missed him sorely. A sharp tremor and the massive god of earthquakes left the chaos lines. Into the surfy dome, and heroes missed him sorely. That very instant, storming Zeus dispatched Apollo.
Go, my friend, to the side of Hector armed in bronze. The god of the quakes who grips and pounds the earth has just this moment plunged in his own bright sea, diving away from all my mounting anger. Just think what the gods would have heard if we had come to blows, even those beneath the ground who circle Cronus. Better for me this way, Poseidon too, to yield before my mighty hand. Outraged as he is, not without sweat would we have called it quits. I love that Zeus has called it quits. But now take up in your hands my storm cloud shield, its dark tassels flying. Shake it over the Argives. Stampede their heroes in panic, archer of the sky. But make this glorious Hector your main concern. Rouse his breakneck courage till, racing in terror, the Argives reach the fleet and the Hellespont en route. From that point on, I plan my tactics. Give commands to grant the Argives breathing room in battle.
Apollo did not neglect the father's orders. Down from Ida's peaks he swooped like a hawk, the killer of doves, the fastest thing on wings. He found Prince Hector, the son of wise King Priam, sitting up now, sprawled on the ground no longer, just regaining his strength, just beginning to recognize his comrades round about him. His heavy sweating, his hard breathing stopped the moment the will of the storming Zeus revived him. Apollo the archer stood beside him, taunting, "Hector, son of Priam, why so far from your troops, sitting here half dead? Some troubles come your way?" Hector struggled for words, his helmet flashing. "Who are you, my lord? Who of the high gods, to probe me face to face? Haven't you heard? I was killing his friends against the ships when the lord of the war cry Ajax struck me down with a boulder square across my chest. He took the fight right out of me, I can tell you. I thought for certain I'd go to join the dead, descend to the house of death this very day. I thought I breathed my last. But Lord Apollo, the distant deadly archer, reassured him. Courage! Look what a strong support the son of Cronus speeds for Mida to take your side and shield you. I have Phoebus Apollo, lord of the golden sword. I who saved you before, and along with you your towering city too. So up now, Hector. Command your drivers here and all their hundreds to lash their plunging teams of the hollow ships. And I'll surge on ahead, clearing the whole way for the team's assault. I'll bend the Argives back. That breathed tremendous strength in a famous captain. As a stallion full-fed at the manger, stalled too long, breaking free of his tether gallops down the plain, out for his favorite plunge in a river's cool currents, thundering in his pride. His head flung back, his mane streaming over his shoulders, Sharon sleeking his glory, knees racing him onto the fields and stallion haunts he loves. So Hector hurtled on, his legs driving, his knees pumping, spurring his reinsman once he heard the god's command. And the Argives wheeled and gave ground quickly. Think how dogs and huntsmen off in the wilds rush some antlered stag or skittish mountain goat, but a rocky gorge or shadowed forest gives them shelter. They see it's not their lot to bring that quarry down. Their shouting only flushes a great bearded lion ramping across their path, suddenly charging them, scattering men and packs despite their lust for battle. So up till now the Achaeans kept advancing, close formation, stabbing away with swords and rugged two-edged spears. But once they saw tall Hector attack the ranks again, they wheeled in terror. Hearts collapsed at their heels.
Just a real quick interruption. If somehow, some way, someday in your future, some teacher gives you a test over Iliad books 1 through 15 and asks you to find at least one of Homer's similes, that's the kind of passage I'm talking about, where he compares the crazy action to something from everyday life to give you a feel, to create the emotion in you.
But Thoas, son of Andraemon, spurred them on. Aetolius best by far, skilled with a spear, superb at cut and thrust, and few Achaeans could put him down in debate when the young men vie and struggle over points. Now forth he came with calls to back his comrades. Look, a genuine miracle right before my eyes. Hector's escaped again. He's risen from the dead. And just as each of us hoped with all his heart, he dropped and died at the hands of giant Ajax. But again some god swoops down and saves this Hector. And hasn't he wiped enough of us out already? Now he'll make more slaughter. Well, I know. He'd never be at the front smashing our lines unless old Thunder, Zeus, had put him on his feet. So come, friends, do as I say. I'll take my lead. The rank and file go back, withdraw to the ships. But we who claim to be the army's finest champions stand our ground. Face him first. Try to beat him off, spears at the ready. For all his fury, trust me, he'll quake before he penetrates our front. Sound tactics. The captains hung on his words and all fell in line. Squads forming around great Ajax, King Idomeneus, Teucer, Meriones and Magus, a match for Ares, close tight for the onset. Calling all their best to brace and face Prince Hector and Hector's Trojans. Behind them rank and file withdrew to Achaea's ships. But packed in a mass of Trojans came on pounding, Hector leading the way with long leaping strides, and heading the van in person came the god Apollo, shoulders wrapped in cloud, gripping the storm shield, a tempest terror, dazzling, tassels flaring along its front. The bronzesmith god of fire gave it to Zeus to bear and strike fear in men, and Apollo gripped it now, locked in his toothpaste as he led the Trojans on. But packed in a mass, the Argives stood their ground. Deafening cries of battle breaking from both sides as whipping arrows leapt away from bowstrings.
That's probably the sound I like.
Keep doing it.
it's battle.
Sorry, I needed that for clarification. Thank you.
I battle you.
Okay, perfect. Showers of spears raining from daring, hardy arms went deep into the soldiers' bodies, quick to fight, but showers of others cut short halfway before they could grace glistening skin, stuck in the ground, still lusting to sink in flesh. Long as Apollo held the storm shield firm in his grasp, the weapons hurtled side to side and men kept falling. But once he looked the fast decaying driver square in the eyes, shook the shield and loosed an enormous battle cry himself. Can you, demonstrate?
Battle.
Apollo stunned the high courage in all their chests. They lost their grip, forgot their fighting fury, routed like herds of cattle or big flocks of sheep when two wild beasts stampede them away in terror, suddenly pouncing down in their midst. Pitch darkness, the shepherd off and gone. So the defenseless Argives panicked, routed. Apollo hurled fear in their hearts and handed Hector and all his Trojans instant glory.
Somehow the sixth graders on the other side of the wall are reenacting this battle, and their battle cry is much more believable than mine.
There man killed man in a mad scatter of battle. Hector finished Stygius, finished Arcesilaus off, the one achieve of Trojans armed in bronze, the other brave Menelaus' trusty comrade. Aeneas slaughtered Medon, and Iasus outright. Medon, the bastard son of royal King Oileus, little Ajax's brother, but Medon lived in Philice, banished from native land. He'd killed a kinsman dear to Oileus' wife, his stepmother Areopis. But Iasus became a captain of Athens' troops. Spheles' son he was called, and Bucalus' grandson. Polydamas killed Mecistius. Polides cut down Echius first in the onset. Dashing Agenor caught down Clonius, and Paris lanced Deiochus deep below the shoulder. Ran him through from behind as he fled the front, and a bronze spear came jutting out his chest.
Just a moment to clarify, this is appalling Paris, our prince of beauty, mad for women, he drives them, lures them all to their ruin.
So annoying.
I can't believe he actually hurt someone and managed to succeed. He just,
Yeah, wow.
I'm so proud of Raul.
Well, the Trojans were.
proud
I'm proud of him too. Yeah, I'm proud of Paris too. What was the thing? Paris, appalling Paris.
Appalling Paris, our prince of beauty, mad for women, he lures them all to their ruin.
These are
Yeah.
funny.
It's kind of funny. Well, the Trojans tore the war gear off the bodies. Argives clambered back in a tangled mass, scrambling back through the sharp stakes and deep pit of the trench, fleeing left and right, forced inside the rampart. So Hector commanded his Trojans, sounding out, "Now storm the ships! Drop those bloody spoils! Any straggler I catch hanging back from the fleet right here on the spot, I'll put that man to death. No kid, no woman commit his corpse to the flames. The dogs will tear his flesh before our walls." With a full shoulder stroke, he flocked his horses on, losing a splitting war cry. War cry? Come on.
War!
Down the Trojan ranks, and all cried back in answer. A savage foe arising, driving teams and chariots close in line with his. And Apollo far in the lead, the gods' feet kicking the banks of the deep trench down with the gods' ease, tumbled earth in the pit between, bridging it with a dike immense, and wide and long as a hurling spear will fly when a man makes practice casts to test his strength. Holding formation now, the Trojans rolled across it, Apollo heading them, gripping the awesome storm shield, and he tore that Argive rampart down with the same ease some boy at the seashore knocks sand castles down. He no sooner builds his playthings up, child's play, than he wrecks them all with his hands and kicking feet, just for the sport of it. God of the wild cry, Apollo. So you wrecked the Achaeans' work and drove the men who had built it up with all that grief and labor into headlong panic rout.
So we did it. He did it. He broke through the wall.
It's a cool wall. Yeah.
Wow.
It was, right, yeah, you're right. Achaeans stampeding back to their raiding hard, huddling tight by the sterns and shouting out to each other, flung their arms to all the
If you're
immortals.
wondering what a wall is, like this behind me, that's a wall. They had those in ancient Greece to block stuff. Okay,
This is so pathetic.
back to
Can't
Cynthia.
hide in
Here's
prayer,
some
but then it swapped his Nestor. Achaeus' watching ward, who stretched his hands to the starry skies and prayed, "Father Zeus, if ever in Argos' golden wheat lands one of us burned the fat thighs of..." Oh wait, sorry, I have to redo that. "Father Zeus, if ever in Argos' golden wheat lands one of us burned the fat thighs of sheep or bulls and begged the safe return that you promised with an odd. Remember it now, Olympian. Save us from this ruthless day. Don't let these Trojans mow us down in droves." So he pleaded, and hearing the old man's prayers, Zeus, who rules the world, let loose a great crack of thunder, rending the skies. But Trojans, thrilled at the sound of Zeus's thunder, pitched themselves at the Argives still more fiercely, summoning up their fiery lust for battle. Like a giant breaker rearing up on the rangy seas, crashing over a ship's sides, driven in by the winds and the blast builds to Comber's brushing impact, a hoarse roar. Trojans stormed over the rampart, lashing their teams to fight against the ships, hurling their two-edged spears at close range there. Trojans from lurchy cars and Achaeans from high decks, scrambling aloft black hulls, lunched down with the long pikes, jointed and clinched and tipped with ripping bronze. They kept on board for bloody fights at sea. Now, as long as the armies fought to take rampart, far from the fast ships, Patroclus sat it out, and his friend Eurypylus' shelter, trying to lift the soldier's heart with stories, applying soothing drugs to his dreadful wound as he sought to calm the black waves of pain. As soon as he heard the Trojans storm the wall and shouts rise from Achaeans lost in panic rout, Patroclus gave a groan and slapping his thighs hard with the flats of both hands burst forth in anguish.
I can't stay with you any longer, Eurypylus, much as you need me. There a great battle breaks. No, let aid attend you here while I rush back to Achilles to spur him into combat. Who knows, with the gods' help I might be able to rouse him now. Bring his fighting spirit round at last. The persuasion of a comrade has its powers.
With the last words, his feet sped him on. Meanwhile, the Argives blocked the Trojan assault, but they still could not repel them from the fleet, outnumbering them as they did. Nor could the Trojans once break through the Argives' bulking forward mass and force their passage through to ships and shelters. Tense as a chalk line marks the cut of a ship timber, drawn taut and true in a skilled shipwright's hands, some master craftsman trained in Athena's school, so tense the battle line was drawn dead even. Some forces at some ships, some clashing at others, but Hector charged head-on and Ajax braced for battle, and both warriors fought it out for a single vessel. Nor could Hector burst through it and make the hull, no Ajax drove him back. A god drove Hector on. And here came Cleator, son of Trojan Clytius, sweeping fire against a prow, but famous Ajax stabbed him short with a spear that stabbed his chest. Down he crashed, the torch dropped from his fist right before Hector's eyes. He watched his cousin sprawl in the dust before the huge black ship and gave a stirring cry to all his units. Trojans, Lycians, Stirling fighters hand to hand. Don't yield an inch, not in these bloody straits. Rescue Calitor before the Argives strip his gear. He's down. He's fed by the ships that crowd the beach.
Hold for a moment. All right, so we've got mighty Ajax, big Ajax, trying to defend the ships. There's other Achaeans out there, but Ajax is really the only A-lister left. Where's Agamemnon? Where's Menelaus? Where's Odysseus? Where's Diomedes, my main man? The Lord of the War Cry. Where are they? Hurt. They're all hurt. They've all been down in the medical tents, and Patroclus has been taking care of them, but now Patroclus he can hear what's going on. It's just like, I can't wait anymore. I gotta go get Achilles. I gotta go try to get Achilles to come back to save us.
I'm gonna be the Cleopatra to his beleaguered, yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what. So really the only A-listers we have are Big Ajax and Little Bitty Ajax. And Big Ajax is trying to hold off an entire army from the hull of a ship. And he's doing a pretty good job, but the Trojans are unstoppable. Apollo is fighting with the Trojans, and Hector, it's unclear, he's either been miraculously healed by Apollo or actually resurrected by Apollo if he happened to actually pass away. He seems to think he has risen from the dead. Homer's not clear if he's really risen from the dead or it's just as if. But anyway, he's back and he's stronger than ever. All right, so this is a brutal battle, and they are right there, swords in hand, torches in hand. They are among the ships. The Achaeans' doom seems certain, because all they have to do is burn those ships and then push them into the sea. We're going to jump. There's quite a bit about Ajax defending the ships. We're going to jump to 687, which will be the beginning of the last section on the bottom of 406. And once we hear pages stop turning, we can go.
Now to the ships. Now, like a pride of man-eating lions, the Trojan forces stormed the fleet, fulfilling Zeus' strict commands, and as Zeus kept building their fury higher, stunned the Argives' spirit and wrenched away their glory, lashing Trojans on. The father's will was set on giving glory over to Hector, son of Priam, that he might hurl his torch at the beaked ships, the force of fire, quenchless, ravening fire, yes, and bring to its bitter end the disastrous prayer of Thetis. For that alone he waited, the god who rules the world, to see with his own eyes the first Achaean ship go up in a blaze of flames.
Pause for just a second. So this is the moment. Zeus says, I'm going to let this dude burn the ships. And as of this moment, my debt to Thetis will be paid. My promise to Thetis will be fulfilled from the moment Hector burns this ship. Cynthia, let's see what he says.
I have a
Right?
question.
Yeah.
You just that one ship?
It's going to be a chain reaction. It's going to be a chain reaction.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, not the entire fleet. Not the entire fleet is necessary in Zeus's mind for him to have fulfilled his promise, because this ship will be enough to accomplish what Zeus plans to accomplish. And now what happens, Cynthia?
For that alone he waited, the god who rules the world, to see with his own eyes the first Achaean ship go up in a blaze of flames. Then from that point on he thrust the Trojans breakneck back from the fleet and give the Argives glory. It said now on that he drove Prince Hector against the hollow hills, though the son of Priam raged in his own right, raged like Ares with brandished spear, or flashed fire roaring down from a rich into thick stands of timber. The foam flecked his mouth and his eyes shot flame, glaring under his shaggy brows and round his head. His helmet shook and clashed a terrific wild din. Hector on the attack, and high in the clear sky Zeus himself defended his champion. Hector alone he prized and glorified among hordes of men, for Hector's life would be cut short so soon. Why? Even now Athena was speeding the fatal day when he would fall to the power of the great Achilles.
Spoiler alert, Homer. Come on.
But now he was bent on breaking men, probing the lions wherever he saw the largest mass and the finest gear, but he could not smash through yet for all his fury. They closed ranks, they packed like a stone wall, a granite cliff that towers against the churning surf. Standing up to the screaming winds, their sudden assaults and the breaking waves they spawned that crash against his base. So did Aeneans stood the Trojan onslaught, rock solid and never flinched in fear. But Hector, all afire, blazing head to foot, charged at their main force, bursting down as a wave burst down on a veering ship, down from under the clouds of batters. Bred by gale winds, showers of foam overwhelmed the hull, flooded from all sight. The hurricane's killing blast thundering into the sails and scudding clear of death by the skin of their teeth, so that the sailors quake. Their hearts race on with terror, so the Achaeans' courage quaked. And Hector lunged again like a murderous lion mad for kills, charging cattle, grazing across the flats of a broad marshy pasture, flocks by the hundred led by an unskilled herdsman, helpless to keep the marauder off a longhorn heifer. No fighting that bloody slaughter. All he can do is keep pace with the leader straggling heads, leaving the center free for the big cats to pounce, and it eats a heifer raw as the rest stampede away. And so the Achaeans stampeded now, unearthly terror, all of them routed now by Father Zeus and Hector, though Hector killed just one. Periphetes, a Mycenaean, favorite son of Coprius, Aristeas' herald, who summoned rugged Heracles time and again to grinding labors. Coprius, yes, that worthless father who desired a better son, better at every skill, primed for speed in war, and his wits outstripped the best in all Mycenae. But all of it went now to build Prince Hector's glory. As the Argives spun in retreat, his shield rim tripped him. Down to his feet, that shield he bore to keep off spares. He stumbled over it now, pitched back, helmet clanging harshly against his brows as the man hit the ground. But Hector marked him at once, rushed up to his side, and staked a spear in his chest to kill the fighter red in the eyes of loyal comrades standing by. Sick for their friend, but what could they do? Nothing. Just shake with dread in the face of mighty Hector.
I love that, so I'm going to read it again. Sick for their friend, but what could they do? Nothing. Just shake with dread in the face of mighty Hector.
Now the Achaeans milled among the shipways, shielded round by the looming superstructures, stern on stern drawn up from the first line inland. But the Trojans stormed them there, and back they fell. They had no choice. Edging away from the front ships, once at the tents nearby, they held their ground, massing ranks, no scattering back through camp. Their plowed discipline gripped them, terror too. They rallied each other, non-stop, war cries rising. Noble Nestor was first. Achaeus watched and warred, pleading, begging each man for his parents' sake.
Be men, my friends. Discipline fill your hearts. Maintain your pride in the eyes of other men. Remember, each of you, sons, wives, wealth, parents, our mother and father dead or alive. No matter. I beg you for their sakes, loved ones far away. No stand and fight. No turning back. No panic.
With that, he put new strength in each man's spirit. Athena thrust from their eyes the blinding battle haze, the darkness sent by the gods, and a hard bright light burst down in both directions, out to the ships and down the lines where fighting drew dead even. Now they could make out Hector load of the war cry, all his troops, squads in reserve and clear of battle, forward squads that fought at the fast-trimmed ships. Ajax's challenge. How could it please his courage still to hang back now where other Achaeans held the rear? No more. Up and down the decks of the ships he went with his great plunging strides, swinging in hand his enormous polished pike for fights at seas. Clamped with clinchers, 22 forearms long, Ajax' skill as a show rider, a virtuoso horseman who picks from the herd 4 stallions, yokes them tight and galloping off the plain comes racing toward a large city, over a trafficked road, and a crowd's gaze in wonder, men and women watching, as sure-footed, never a slip. The rider keeps on leaping, swinging from back to back, and the pounding team flies on. So Ajax swung now, leaping from deck to deck on a fast-trimmed ships, ranging with huge strides as his voice hit the skies, keeping up a terrific belonging, killing Argives to defend the ships and shelters.
We got just a little glimpse there of something like an ancient Greek version of the rodeo, and I would love to see this. It's another of Homer's similes, but he's comparing Ajax' movement to a horseman. Notice what the horseman does, and this is a horseman for equestrian sport, some sort of horse sport, where he rides 4 stallions, he takes 4 stallions out, running full speed ahead and lashed together, and the rider jumps from horse to horse to horse, back and forth as the stallions move forward. I would love to see that in real life. I should. I haven't, but I should.
You should.
Thank you for the great insight there, Liz Nell.
You're very welcome.
Sometimes I forget the resources that are available for you young people because I'm so very, very old.
You're very old.
Sorry.
Should be.
And Hector, too, how could he hold back with his massive armored Trojans, now like a flashing eagle swooping down on bird flocks, winged thousands feeding, swarming a river's banks, geese, cranes, or swans with their long lancing necks. So swooping Hector went headfirst at a warship, charged his purple prow, and Zeus behind him thrust him on with his mighty deathless hand, urging the soldiers on who crowded Hector's back. And again a desperate battle broke at the ships. You'd think they waited until the fighting fresh troops, unbruised, unbroken, they fought with such new fire. And what were the fighters thinking? Only this. The Argives, certain they'd never flee the worst, they perished then and there. But the hope soared in every Trojan's heart to torch the ships and slaughter Argive heroes. So ran their thoughts, closing for the kill. At last, Hector grappled the ship's stern, a beauty built for speed. It swept the seas with Protesilaus, bore him to Troy, but never bore him back to his fatherland again. Now churning round that ship, Achaeans and Trojans hacked each other at close range. No more war at a distance, waiting to take the long flights of spears and arrows. They stood there, man to man, and matched their fury, killing each other now with hatchets, battle axes, big swords, 2-edged spears, and many of the blade, magnificent, heavy-hilted, and thonged in back, and black laying strewn on the ground. Some dropped from hands, some fell as the fighters' shoulder straps were cut, and the earth ran black with blood. And Hector held fast. He never let go of the high stern. He hugged its horn, arm locked in a death grip, crying out to Trojans, "Bring fire!" Up with the war cries all together. Now Zeus hands us a day worth all the rest. Today we seize these ships. They stormed the shore against the will of the gods. They came here frighted with years of pain for us, and all thanks to our city elders. What cowards! Whenever I longed to fight at the ship's high sterns, the old men kept me back. They held the troops in check. Oh, but if Zeus's lightning blinded us those days, it's Zeus who drives us, hurls us on today. The harder he cried, the harder his forces charged against the Argives. Not even Ajax held his post, no longer now. Forced by the shafts, he backed away by inches, certain he'd die there. Down he leapt from the decks, down to bestride the 7-foot bridge amidships. There he stood, tensing, braced to take them on. His huge pike kept beating the Trojans off the hulls, any attacker flinging tireless fire. And all the time that terrible voice of his bellowing out to cohorts, "Friends, fighting Danaans, aids in arms of Ares, fight like men, my comrades, call up your battle fury. You think we have reserves in the rear to back us up? Some stronger wall to shield our men from disaster? No, there's no great citadel standing near with towers where we could defend ourselves and troops could turn the tide. No, we're here on the plain of Troy. All Troy's in arms, dug and back to the sea. Land of our fathers far away. Fight! The light of safety lies in our fighting hands, not spines gone soft in battle." And with each cry he thrust his slashing pike with a fresh new fury at any Trojan crashing against the beached ships, torch ablaze in hand, straining to please Hector who urged him on. Ajax ready and waiting there would stab each man with his long rugged pike. 12 he impaled point blank, struggling up the hulls.
That, my friends, is book 15. Perhaps Hector's greatest moment. And he says, "Move forward, burn these ships. Zeus fights with us." He's right. He's 100% right. Zeus is with him. This far and no further. Zeus considers his promise to Thetis fulfilled as of this moment. And now it is time for him to fulfill his promise to Hera. Picture him with his divine to-do list. And he has just checked Thetis off the list. What is his promise to Hera?
Troy will fall.
Troy will fall. Yes, Miss Cynthia.
I don't imagine it to be like a divine to-do list. He probably got a journals from like Michael's and it's decorated with little flowers and crochet, and he's just like, check,
Not flowers.
check,
Flowers.
done.
Yeah, Thunderbolt.
I know, right? Yeah.
Miss Bryant?
So are the gods that are besides Troy doing that because they want to, or because they want to be on Zeus' good?
And just
The
imagine
one,
a little-
so our,
Friday, Troy falling.
yes, but the gods that are fighting for Troy are fighting for their own reasons, because even though Zeus loves Troy, he's also forbidden them to intervene, and he's also promised to destroy Troy. So when they're fighting with Trojans, except for Apollo today, who Zeus specifically sent, usually they're going behind his back, and he's very angry. Today, he gave up not only permission, but he gave Apollo the orders to go fight with the Trojans. First, to heal or perhaps even resurrect Hector, and then to fight with the Trojans. But that...
Is that their rendition of Ajax?
Yes,
looks
but
so
it's two different panels, so you can't compare their relative size. But this is big old Ajax, and this is Hector.
I mean, you can hear the difference. Like, look at those thunder thighs. Jesus Christ.
Any other questions or comments
He has
about
luscious
this or
hair.
anything?
He has really luscious hair for a big Ajax. Like, big Ajax's hair is so nice.
Well, Homer frequently, one of his, by the way, in case any teachers ever asked you to identify some of Homer's epithets on a test, sometime in your life, especially next week, he's constantly calling who we call the Greeks, he's constantly calling them the long-haired Achaeans. Homer wants us to imagine luscious, flowing locks of hair. Miss Maria.
Isn't it funny how Nestor's like, guys, you need to fight. Like, come on now, your family back there, they're like not gonna be proud. And he's just like sitting there.
Yeah. Well, he's very old. In fact,
How old? Like,
yeah.
you
So
old or like old?
no. So he's an old man, and part of Nestor's legend, and the reason I haven't brought this up is, you never know when if Homer doesn't mention it, you never know if it was part of the story in his day or a much later addition. But part of Nestor's background, and I've forgotten the details, is that the gods granted him a triple lifespan. So Nestor might be like 200 years old. Or if that part of his story only developed long after Homer, which is possible, because Homer's the first written source we have, then we're just a picture of very, very old man. But he's an old man. It wouldn't make sense for him to be out fighting anymore. Yeah, Cynthia.
Do you think ambrosia tastes like Hawaiian punch? Like, you know, Zeus is just like, not even drinking wine. He's just like, hey, Harry, you want some of this strawberry cooling effect Hawaiian punch that I found from the grounds and I created from my hand or something? Because, you know, it seems like they do that.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Checking out my fire. Yeah.
Ambrosia sounds like the gossip drink.
Like, what does ambrosia taste like?
I'd imagine it'd be like the bubble gum from.
I always, well, I'm thinking like, I think like coconut, pineapple, that stuff, but there's a fruit salad called ambrosia that's made with that, so that's probably where that meant.
It's like a pina colada, except you're making it.
Yeah, that's what I picture as like pina colada flavor.
What does it look like? Just like.
End up with.
I don't know in as much as it's not real.
Meal.
Looks like dog food.
Yeah.
Wait. Never mind.
Hey,
I'm really sorry, but this is just like a question out of curiosity. Why is it that basically in every drawing, like the goddesses always have like at least one breast exposed? Just one.
That may have been in different time periods, but that may have been Greek fashion. It almost certainly in the Minoan period, which is much earlier, it almost certainly was.
Just like one?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Eat it.
Oh, I mean, so it's like most fashion things, it's totally arbitrary. You know, why are our shirt collars shaped like this? Why do we wear ties? I mean, there's a history, but it's not really symbolic of anything. It's just that's how the fashion evolved. So female gowns that are sort of cut diagonally across the front this way, or the other way, I don't know, would have been very likely the fashion, at least at certain points in their history. Raul, you know what to do.